Oh, yeah, just heard it.
Sorry, I've got a locked orientation on my iPad I'm trying to fix, so. Should be okay.
Good morning, directors. I'd like to call the January 26th inaugural meeting of the Municipal Services Committee to order and proceed with the first order of business being the election of chair for 2022. And if I could call for nominations for the position of chair, please.
If I could nominate Mark Baker.
Director Baker, you've been nominated. Would you accept that nomination?
I would, please.
Thank you very much. Are there further nominations for the position of chair? For the third and last time, further nominations for the position of chair? And hearing none, we'll declare Director Baker elected by acclamation as chair for the Municipal Services Committee and proceed now with the election of vice chair and call for nominations, please.
I nominate Claire Moglove.
Director Moglove has been nominated. Director Moglove, would you accept that nomination?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further nominations for vice chair? Third and last call for nominations for position of vice chair.
Just a question. Do we have quorum? I don't see very many participants here yet for
Yes,
this
we
meeting.
we do have a quorum.
Oh, okay. I just was looking. Okay, thanks.
We have a number of directors in the office room, in the office space here today. Hearing no further nominations, we'll declare Director Moglove elected by acclamation as vice chair for the Municipal Services Committee. And now we'll turn over the meeting to Director Baker. Thank you.
I realize this is not a good start, and I apologize, but I do have Island Health on an important matter on another Zoom call. So please accept my apology, and I'll have to turn it over to Vice Chair for today's meeting. Thank you very much for the nomination, and I'll try to get back on here momentarily. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. No pressure, Mark. Thanks a lot.
None at all.
Okay, so I think we're on item number E, which is the adoption of the public agenda. Can I get a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Does anybody in the conference room have their hand up, Tom?
No.
Okay, thanks. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to adoption? I don't see any hands, and I presume nobody in the conference room is opposed. I'll call that carried. Don't believe we have any petitions or delegations. Next item is item G, which is the minutes of the regular meeting of the committee from November 17th for adoption.
Move adoption.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Don't see anyone's hands up, so I will call the question. Is anyone opposed to adoption? Seeing none, that's carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Don't see anyone's hands up, so we'll continue onward. Chair's report, I have nothing to report. J is the schedule of meetings. A is the report from the CAO. Could I get a motion for receipt?
Moved.
Second.
Thanks. Any discussion on the 2022 schedule of meetings? Don't see anyone's hands up. Anyone in the conference room?
No,
Don't
Madam
see
Chair.
anyone. So I'll call the question. Anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried. The next is B, which is to approve the meeting schedule.
So moved. Colburn.
Second, Cornfield.
Second, Evans.
Thank you. Any discussion on approving the meeting schedule? Seeing no hands up, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That looks like it's carried. Thank you. There's no bylaws, correspondence. The next item is director's reports. I believe Director Davis wanted to discuss recent power outages on the West Coast. So I'll turn it over to you, Director Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Moglev. I know this has affected some of us here. We were just having this discussion in the First Nations Relations Committee regarding the power outages. The village of Tassis was without power for a week. It was certainly very taxing on our volunteers, employees of the villages, first responders, various people. We had to open up a warming center in town. We were feeding people. A lot of people had no heat in their houses. Not everybody has wood heat, so you know, they didn't have the option of that. But it raised some interesting issues. And again, I'm sort of repeating myself from First Nations Relations Committee, but several years ago, and full disclosure, I used to work for Sinech Energy Resources. They had a potential run-of-the-river power project, which they're actually building very close to Tassis. In fact, is within the municipal boundary. That power project, it was under the standing offer program, and they had spent over $2 million on it. Was going to generate 5 megawatts of power. And at that time, I was on council at the time, but we were negotiating to have it provide gravity feed water into town, which would have saved us money. It was going to generate a substantial amount of utility fees to the community, and they had agreed to allow for islanding of the power, which is where if the power grid goes down, we could go to local power, and it would have continued to provide power to our community and possibly others if the rest of the grid hadn't gone down out to Zabalas and Cloutier and places like that. But that project, well, governments changed, the standing offer program was removed, there was some local opposition, and that project never went ahead. If it had gone ahead, we would never have had a power outage. We wouldn't have had any issues with pumping water in town, using diesel generators. It would have had a very different outcome. So I guess what I was interested in discussing here is whether we'd be interested in making some sort of submission to the provincial government that we need to start looking at having local power generation, because it is a renewable resource and it leads to greater resiliency, and in the long run it could reduce the tax burden to communities that have to take on that financial burden from all the extra costs that are incurred when these power outages happen for protracted periods. I did raise this with the CEO of BC Hydro, and he said, well, we don't have the standing offer program anymore, so we can't really do that. And I said, well, then in that case, we're going to have to get a very big diesel generator for our town. And he says, well, we don't do that because we're moving away from fossil fuels. So that sort of raises the question, what are we doing about resiliency for our small communities? So I just thought I'd put that out there because I would love to have a discussion regarding these things and see if something could come forward from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Davis. Does anyone have any comments or questions to add to this conversation?
Yeah, Vice Chair Moglove, Director Unger here.
Oh, Director Unger, yeah, go ahead.
I guess my question to Director Davis, so if we had the backup power system, would it be enough to power the whole community?
In our case, it would have been 5 megawatts. Our community use is less than 2. So it would have been, like, this is assuming the power lines stayed open and clear from us out to Zabalas and Cukit, and it would have ran all those communities.
Anything further, Director Unger?
No, that's good. No, I think my key was just like how much power is being used up and how much can, could be produced.
And
So
Director
saying that,
Jules.
if you,
Oh.
if you got it, then would you really need hydro at all then?
That's a really good point. We could be mostly independent. There is possibilities, especially with the extremely hot summers we've been having of late, that there may not be enough water capacity in the summer to meet the needs. But certainly in terms of resiliency, when we have power outages, they tend to be in the winter. And that's precisely when we would need this the most.
Thank you. I see Director Jules, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just had a question about the project that didn't go through. Was there any reason for it being opposed, and what did community consultation look like when this project was trying to go ahead?
Through the chair to Director Jules, it would have. Sorry, could you repeat your question again, just so I get it correct?
So, yes, it was 2 questions. One was what was the reason that it was opposed, and also what did the community consultation look like? How was this brought to the community, and were they opposed to it as well? I'm guessing they were, since it didn't go through.
Okay, 2 things there. There was a lot of opposition in the community because people thought that it was going to be harmful to the salmon in town. Salmon do run up to the point where the outfall from the generation plant would have been situated. But my understanding is that doesn't really do any harm to the salmon. I've heard, in fact, that salmon congregate at the outfall from the power generating station here in Campbell River. So that wouldn't have been an issue. I know also that Mowachop Mushlet First Nation were opposed to the project at that time. And I don't really want to put any words in their mouths in terms of why they're opposed, because I'm not really clear on that. It could have been a personal relationship issue between the people who are running Synex at the time and the First Nation, and they may have not used the best diplomacy that they could have in terms of negotiating it. And maybe they had not approached the local First Nation, but that's all I can say towards that. I just know that they were also in opposition.
Anything further, Director Jules?
Okay. Oh no, thank you. That was my questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone in the conference room have any questions or comments?
Hey, Vice Chair Logo, it's Director Colburn.
Go ahead, Director Colburn.
So I think there is a lot of advocacy work that could be done with BC Hydro. I know that they used to have micro-standing offer projects, and we had discussed that a little bit in the First Nations Relations Committee meeting. However, Zabalas Hydro Lake Project, or Zabalas Lake Hydro Project, is quite close to us, and that does not provide us with any power. So I think there's a lot of room for advocacy with BC Hydro in providing some resiliency and some backup plans for these kind of communities. I also think that there is a piece that is possibly missing on all these discussions, and that is the growth that's happening on the right-of-way. So when these right-of-ways are cut down, the trees are so high, they don't hit the lines. Those trees grow. And so having that addressed with BC Hydro and the growth and with forestry as well of those trees that are right up against our lines, of course, with things like heat domes and then high winds and really extreme weather that we're facing these days, I think there possibly could be a different plan to maybe address those things if we were highlighting them. So that's my piece to kind of put in here. And I was extremely thankful for the Strathcona Regional District for their outreach and help during all of this with the regional EOC. So much kudos to the SRD here. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Colburn. Anyone else?
Yep. Director
Is that
Cornfield.
Director Cornfield?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I appreciate concerns that Director Davis brought up. I think Director Colburn also mentioned things like heat domes and windstorms and everything else that can affect transmission that comes from elsewhere and is in a power line, and that's all we've got right now under our current technology for moving power. I think a bigger issue is power self-sufficiency, whether it's small communities, but looking larger, and it reminds me, I used to sit on an AVICC committee that dealt with self-sufficiency because the island is not self-sufficient in power. If we are to lose one line or both connections to the mainland, the whole island's in trouble because we don't generate enough power. And 2/3 of all the power generated on the island is generated in Campbell River. That's going to change too, because with Hydro's direction from the provincial government to eliminate capital power, which may not be 100% renewable, but it is relatively clean burning in terms of it using natural gas. That's equivalent to all the power that's generated through the Strathcona Campbell system. And yeah, we currently use twice as much electricity as we produce on the island. And so we're wholly dependent on off-island. And I think the bigger discussion that needs to get dusted off is self-sufficiency in power, not just for the remote communities, it's definitely part and parcel, but also for the island itself. And yeah, if we're going to go, I think it's something that should be carried forward to AVICC. And I guess we're out of time for our any resolutions or emergencies. I don't think it would qualify as an emergency resolution, but I think it's the weather system that hit us a few weeks ago just highlighted the concerns once again. So I think we should be advocating, and given the fact that we've got at least one board member that's up for election at AVICC, should support that and maybe have her carry it forward to the executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Evans. I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those comments. And I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be valuable to just have a bit more of a backgrounder. I agree. I think this is something that is going to continue to have impact on our region. And so I'm just wondering if we could ask for staff to prepare just a backgrounder that would allow me to take it forward and see what other action potentially could take place. But that would be my recommendation, that I put a motion forward that staff prepare a
Right.
one-page background.
Before we do that, Director Evans, I was going to ask Mr. Yates, do we need a motion to receive Director Davis's verbal report, or is that redundant?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the verbal report from Director Davis? Not seeing anything. Anyone opposed? That carries, so go ahead, Director Evans.
Thank you. And I would just like to make a motion that staff, in consultation with other directors, prepare a one-page backgrounder on this issue.
Is there a seconder?
Second. Colburn.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Director Evans, did you want to speak on it?
Just to say that, just to have something in writing that, again, has been done in consultation with the directors, that allows me to take it forward, or any other members to take it forward for further consultation.
Thanks. Any further comments on the motion? I'm sorry, who's that?
Director Davis.
Go ahead, Director Davis.
I realize I'm just echoing what Director Colburn said, but it's something I didn't mention in my report, is that certainly our lines were taken down in 4 or 5 places between Gold River and Tassus by trees and snowfall. And that was directly a result of poor clearing of the lines. I thought they were going to be doing, I had heard indirectly that they were going to be doing clearing last year, and I think with the heat dome and the fire issues, it didn't happen. It should have happened before that. So that certainly is an important component that's a relatively easy fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to? I don't see any hands. The only comment I would make is I don't know whether this issue is limited to Vancouver Island, or whether the issue that Director Cornfield has raised, i.e. the whole idea of energy self-sufficiency for smaller or for communities, whatever, is that wider? And the reason I'm asking that is, in terms of advocacy, if it's only an island issue, then ABICC is the proper forum. But if it is wider than that, then it could theoretically go to UBCM. So I just raised that issue, and I'm not sure what the answer is, and maybe that could be addressed somehow. Director Evans.
Yes, thank you for that comment. That's why I think it's important that in my motion, it's for staff to prepare a one-pager backgrounder on this. But I think that there may be opportunities for further to move this to a broader scope. But I think it's important for us to look at it as well as grassroots advocacy at the local regional levels. And then, as you say, if it's something that has broader impact, certainly there's an opportunity then to reinforce that by moving that forward to a broader mandate like UBCM.
Great, thank you. Anyone further? Is that Director Cornfield?
Yes, and just.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I can't see. It's hard to see.
No, I know, and that's why I chimed in.
Yeah, no worries.
It's more critical on Vancouver Island. The rest of the province is serviced by the grid. They also have remote community problems as well, depending on their location. But it's a lot more critical to Vancouver Island because we're dependent on that line connection to the mainland. And we don't generate enough power to sustain ourselves. With the direction of Clean Energy BC and the closing down of Capital Power that is anticipated, our supply is going to be even more dependent, not less, with this move to electric vehicles and everything else electrified. The demand is going to increase, and our population is not shrinking on the island, it's getting larger. So as demand increases, and if our power supply is decreased even more, then we become more dependent. so it's more critical to Vancouver Island than it is to other areas in the province. So we are,
Thank you for that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it would be similar for, say, Haida Gwaii, right, which also has difficulty with power sources. So, yeah, I think it's the self-sufficiency in power is really important. And then for the whole island, which was why I suggested AVICC. And then the small communities would be a definite component of that whole thing. So to me, that seems a logical place to start and carry it forward to AVICC.
Right. Thank you, Director Cornfield. Yeah, so no further comment. I don't see anyone else's hand up. So I'll call the question on Director Evans' motion. Is anyone opposed? Don't see anybody, so we'll call that carried. The next item of business is, I believe, item Q, which is termination.
Move termination, Colburn.
Second, Cornfield.
Any discussion? Don't see any. Call the question. Anyone opposed? Seeing nothing, we'll see everybody in about an hour and a half. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.
Thank you. Have a good day. See you guys soon.